Okay, we are basically watching the president with the First Lady and the leader of France and the First Lady of France now stepping out for the portico of the White House. They're now going to enter the South Lawn. There's First Lady Melania right there. She has been organizing this historic state visit. It is the White House's first state visit 15 months into the Trump presidency. They're going to plant a tree on the South Lawn. It is a gift from France to the United States. It is a European oak sapling, 4.5 feet tall. We have Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney here. Sir, this is a developing situation as well. General, the EU is looking to the President of France to coax President Donald Trump to stay in the Iran nuclear deal. Your reaction?
Well, it's natural, and they send President Macron over here to use him because he probably has the best relationship of any of the European leaders right now. So I'm not surprised. I do not think that the president's going to change. He knows what he wants to do. The Europeans on the Iranian deal is purely a cash cow. They're ignoring the nuclear threat per se. It's cash. They've got a huge trade surplus going, and they're working it to their advantage. But that's not good enough.
You know, it seems to, when you read and study what the President of France, General, has been saying about ISIS leaving Syria and Iran's growing presence with military bases in Syria, on the one hand, the President of France is saying, as soon as if we in the United States leave Syria, Iran will step in and cause terrorist activities to go on the increase. But at the same time, he wants the president to stay in the Iran nuclear deal. Can you square this for the viewer? Can you explain that and sort that out?
Yeah, I'll make it very simple. We should stay with the limited number of people in Syria with 24/7 air power. So if they try to take over any of the Kurdish places or our other Syrian allies, then we can use that air power to beat them down and to defeat them. Now, as far as the nuclear deal goes, that was such a bad deal. No agreement should ever have been made, the JCPOA, Liz, and we should back out of that from both a military and a political point of view. Again, remember, the European Union's interest is primarily in trade.
Let me just give you some background information about the tree that was just planted. There is an historic information about the reason that France gave the United States and the White House this tree. Over 9,000 American Marines died in World War I in what's called the Belleau Woods area. This tree is from that area of that battle in June 1918, where 9,000 American Marines died in World War I. That forest is a memorial site. It's an important symbol of the sacrifice the United States made to ensure peace and stability in Europe. General, your reaction to the President of France giving this oak tree to the United States in commemoration of World War I Marines dying there?
Liz, it's very, very symbolic. The Battle of Belleau Woods was a horrendous battle. We lost, as you said, 9,000 Marines. And to make this tree come from that region really touches on our relationship. And I think it is a very symbolic gesture by President Macron and symbolic of the relationship between the president and President Trump.
What does this do for the psyche of the Trump administration to have these memorable events come up in the ensuing days? This will be a 3-day visit. The president of Germany, Angela Merkel, will be coming on Friday. How does this set the scene for the presidency of Donald Trump?
Well, I think it establishes it on a high note. People are seeing the way the Trumps handle their visitors and the relationships developing. The left has always wanted to deny that President Trump had that capability. He's absolutely brilliant at it. You're seeing it today, and you'll see it at dinner tonight at Mount Vernon and the state dinner they have. The whole 3 days that the Macrons are here and how they're honored is going to show the world and the American people what a great leader President Trump and Mrs. Trump are.
And we will be covering the Chancellor of Germany's visit, Angela Merkel, as well, coming later this week. Good to see you, General. Thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it.